Hello everyone. This is the social studies lesson for Thursday, May 8th, and we are going to talk about schools and in the community. For today's lesson, the materials that you will need are your past and present magazine, the worksheet titled Schools Then and Now, a pencil and crayons. If you have already given me your past and present magazine, don't worry, just watch the video and you'll be able to pause it and watch the video to be able to look at your the magazine pages, okay? So don't worry about that. Over the past couple weeks, we've been talking about just how different things were in the past to the present. And one of those things that we're going to talk about today are schools. Schools were very different in the past compared to how they are now. Back then, a school only had one room. One room. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if everybody in our school came to our classroom and everybody sat there all day long? That would be pretty packed, huh? But back then, that's how it was. And older kids sat in the back of the room, and the younger kids sat in the front of the room, and they stayed with one teacher all day long. Kind of crazy, huh? This was what their school book looked like. What is that? That's crazy. It's kind of like a holder, and they slid like a paper in there so they could read what they were working on. Nothing like I've ever seen before. And they used these boards with chalk to write on because they didn't have paper like we have paper where we can just turn it in. Nope, they would have to show what they know on chalk, with chalk on a chalkboard, and when they were done, they would erase it to write their next assignment. That's crazy. Things have so much changed. Let's look at now. Now schools have classrooms for each grade. That's right. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up to 12th grade. Everybody has their own room. And what about what we use in our classroom? We use computers, we use tablets, we use our paper, pencils, crayons, markers. We use all kinds of different writing utensils or writing tools instead of chalk. We don't use chalk. We use chalk outside to play and write on the sidewalk sometimes. In fact, we don't even use chalk boards anymore in the classroom. We use smart boards. And we don't even use markers on those. We use their magnetic tools that don't even write. It just has a sponge tip on the end. So things from schools have changed very, very much from back then until now. Let's go find out about some more stuff that's changed. All right, so now we're looking at In the Community of our Social Studies magazine. And in our community, which means where we live in our neighborhood, right? Things have also changed from the past into the present, from then till now, okay? Then people had a lot of work to do, right? Well, we have a lot of work to do also now, but it was done in a different way, okay? Back then, people helped each other in different ways. Look right here in this picture. That's called a quilting bee, okay? A quilting bee. Well, we have a spelling bee where people get up in front of each other and spell words to try and win an award, right? But this is a quilting bee. Well, this is where people get together to make quilts, and they help each other by sewing a quilt, which is a big blanket. So that's one way that they would help each other, by making blankets or quilts together. This one is a corn husking bee. Corn husking bee? Well, think about it. Corn husking. Corn husking. Remember when we talked about the dolls that were made of corn husk? Well, the corn husk is the peel that comes off the corn. So these people are corn husking. They're taking the husk, the peel, off of the corn. So that's what they're doing. So a bunch of people just sit around and help out and take off the peel from the corn so that they can get that ready, maybe to take to the market or maybe to sell, maybe to take to the grocery or wherever back then, because remember, there were no grocery stores. They had markets or they sold them maybe at different kind of vegetable stands. All right, and the last one is barn raising. Barn raising, well, I raise my kids. That means that I take care of them until they grow older. Does that mean that we raise a barn until it gets older? No. Barn raising means that they would build a barn and they would build it on the ground. And once it was ready, they would raise it up until it became a building. Isn't that crazy? Now they build things totally different. But people would get together in the neighborhood, in the community, and they would raise or they would build a barn and then raise it together until it became a building for a barn. So remember, because lots of people lived on farms back then. So that's what they would need is barns for their horses, for their cows, for their chickens, for all their animals that they had on their farms. Now, today people help in different ways, right? So now people go and they help their neighbors bring groceries from the grocery store, right? Maybe we have neighbors that that aren't able to get out of the house. And so we help them maybe bring in their garbage or we bring in their groceries. Or how about this boy here? I know we talked about snow and that we don't have snow here, but in other areas where it does snow, maybe you could help your neighbor by shoveling their snow from their driveway so they can get out of their house, right? Sometimes here we have things happen where, like now, where we can't leave our houses because of coronavirus and maybe other people need help and we can help our neighbors that way, right? Look at this picture over here. These people are helping by planting new plants. Maybe they're planting fruits or vegetables or other things that they're going to help their community and their neighborhood with. All right, and our last picture's up here. It says, in the past, courts helped to make sure people followed the rules. Now that's one thing that has not changed. Okay, the courts are the people like the judges and the lawyers, and those are people that grow up and help people that maybe have done something wrong or have had something wrong done to them. And then they go to the court, see, just like today, and somebody helps them, okay? It's always been like that. Those rules have always been around and they will always be around. That is what helps keep people safe and helps keep our world safe so that people always follow rules and we always have to live together and follow those same rules so that we all live fair. Okay, so the courts are one thing. Now the rules and the laws may change because our lives are changing, but the courts and different laws will always be there. So that's another way that things have changed from the past and the present, is that the courts are there and the laws are there, but the laws may change a little bit. All right, let's move along. Okay, boys and girls, if you look at the slide that I've just put up, you can see this is what the classrooms look like then, okay? This first picture right here is the outside of what a school would look like. Just one little house, one little building right there, and all those kids went to school together in that one house. The next picture, this is what a classroom would look like. Lots of kids in one classroom. Teachers all the way in the back there. You notice their clothes a lot different than what we look like today. The next picture over here is what a desk looked like back then. And actually, that's not one of the first ones. That's kind of a more modern one. All right, next row down here. You see a boy up there, he's giving a presentation in front of his class. You see that? And then here, these were one of the first desks where the kids would sit side by side. It kind of shows the desks with nobody in them over to the right in this picture. See how they look? Look over here in the window. It wasn't even a window. It was just kind of like open to the outside. So there was no air conditioning, nothing in there. It was just closed up. You got hot, you opened the windows, or there wasn't any windows. The breeze just came through. And look, this was all boys, and they had to wear jackets to school every day. Could you imagine that? How hot it would be? And how about this last picture over here? Just one more picture of a classroom. One classroom, one school, one class. Look at how many kids are in that classroom. It's a lot. So those are the classrooms from the past. Now let's take a look at what they look like now. Here's just a few pictures from what schools look like nowadays. If you notice, everything seems so much more bright and colorful. Everything in the classroom is more electronic, right? Everything that we use nowadays, it just seems so much more bright. The materials, the setup of the room, the desks, everything, if you compare it between the last slide and this slide, things just seem so much more bright and happy, I think. Definitely the classrooms have changed a lot over the years. I think for the better, and if you just wait. It's just going to keep on changing, because I know that in the past 20 years, well, over 20 years that I've been teaching, it's changed a lot, because those smart boards that we use in the classroom, these things, they weren't around when I started teaching. We used to use, in this picture over here to the right, those projectors. That's what we used to use when I first started teaching. So even that's something that has changed over the years. In teaching, we used to use chalkboards and those projectors, and now we're using the smart boards. We don't even use chalkboards or the whiteboards anymore. We moved from the chalkboards to the whiteboards, now to the smart boards. So every few years, it seems that we're still making more and more and more progress and changing things. For the better, and probably for the better. Who knows? We'll see if they're for the better, but I think they are, because they're more useful tools that make teaching more fun and more exciting, I think. So, all right, let's go to our next one and apply what we have learned about the past and the present in schools. Okay, I told you that you were going to need your Schools Now and Then worksheet, and this is the time that you're going to need to use it. All right, boys and girls, first of all, go ahead and make sure that your name is up in the top section. And if you'd like, you may write the date. Let me get my pen out. Today's date, I can't fit it in there myself, is 5-7-20. Okay, so you can write that right in where the date goes. If you would like to put the date in, that is 5-7-20. Okay, so for this assignment, what we're going to do is we're going to use two words. We are going to use the word then or now to tell about each object. We're going to look at the objects and say, okay, was this something that we used, or not we, because we weren't around then, but is this something that was used in the classroom back then? Or is this something that we use or can use in the classroom now because it's from the present? Now I wrote those two words over here on the left, then, and I wrote the word now, okay? So you can pause this video and be able to copy the words, or you can copy them right from your paper right there, then, now, okay? So let's take a look right here at our first object. What is this thing right here? A computer. Yes, that is a computer. Now, did they use computers back then in the past? Or is that something that we use now? Right then, if it was something from back then, or now, if it's something that we use now. Right, our next item is paper and pencil. Is that something that they used back then in the past? Or is that something that we use ourselves now in the present in our classroom? Write then or now on the line below. Next one, this is a chalkboard and chalk. Is that something from the past, back then, or is that from now? Write the word that tells when it's from on the line below it. This object right here is called an abacus, and that is used to count, okay? Was that used back in the past then, or is that something we use to count now? Write the word that tells when it's from on the line below the picture. Our next item right there is a pen with ink. You dip the pen in the ink to write. Is that an object that we would use in the past, or is that something that you see today, now? Write the word that describes when it's from on the line. And our last item right there is a calculator. Was a calculator used back then? Or is that what we use now for adding? Write the word that tells when it's from on the line below the picture. When you're finished, you may color the pictures if you like. That's your choice. So you may color the pictures. If not, you're all finished. Please make sure that your name is on the top of your paper. And that's all for social studies for today.